Hello, guys, it's Elise, and I'm going to give you the summary of the documentary that I watched, which is called The Business of Being Born. Um, it was directed by Abby Epstein, and the main producer was Ricky Lake. It was made in 2008, and I think the purpose of it is best described by Ricky Lake's quote, and that is to explore the system of birth in this country and raise questions as to whether or not they are benefiting mothers and babies or not. So it just kind of tries to depict the current state of maternity care and to help um, present that in the global picture of other developing countries. And as you well know, infant and maternal mortality rates are really high, while we are also spending 2 to 3 times more than any other developed countries. Um, and we also have almost completely moved birth into the hospital, and over 90% of births are um, attended by physicians. And so, compared to other developed countries where that is not the case, and most normal low risk births are being attended by midwives, and in some countries are still largely in the home, those infant and maternal mortality rates are much better. So Ricky Lake is really promoting the message, like, why are we spending more money and the outcomes um, are not reflecting that. And so she is most of the setting is in New York City, where she kind of follows a few pregnancies and births, and includes a lot of expert opinion from public health officials, certified nurse midwives, RNs, physicians, and a lot of patient advocates and patients themselves, and to just talk about the state of things. And she's really advocating for a return to natural, unmedicated births, and a return to more midwife attended births. And so that is kind of the gist of the documentary. The primary, sorry, I'm looking at my paper. The primary social influence I talked about was just this, the historical context that moved birth and birth attendance from home and midwife to hospital and physician, and that being this big, very effective smear campaign that presented midwives as poor and illiterate, like the black granny midwife, dirty, and then hospitals as this clean, safe haven environment where birth would be safer and better. And we all know that that wasn't, especially historically, that wasn't true at the beginning. And so now we are in this culture where we have completely institutionalized, and in a lot of ways try to control all things about birth, and that involves a lot of different interventions. And talking about the culture piece in that is both a huge cultural shift for how we view pregnancy and delivery, and that includes like pop culture and media, and how we view delivery as something that's traumatic and dramatic and painful and scary. And the film talks a lot about those fear tactics and how effective they are at convincing women that pregnancy is something that is intangible and needs to be controlled and feared, and that leads to a place where women have no power. And she talks about the Pitocin cycle of women who come into the hospital. They get put on a time clock. They don't advance far enough. They get put on Pitocin. Their Pitocin makes their contractions so unbearable that they get an epidural, and then the epidural slows their labor down. So then they have to increase the Pitocin, and then of course that leads to fetal distress. And then you have the doctor that says the baby is not tolerating this. We have to get him out. Leads to an emergency C-section, and then we have this message that is, aren't you so glad that you were in the hospital so that you had all those options? When really, if we would have allowed a natural process to take place, women would probably be at a lot less risk for both all of these drugs and these severe interventions like C-sections. And so for the culture piece, we have a film that is saying we need to empower women to take control of their birth. And also, we need to ask more questions. You know, they kind of say that Americans take more time researching buying a car or a stereo than they do finding a physician or deciding how they want their birth to take place. So, from a culture value perspective, the film is really calling us out on how serious we take this topic, and really advocating that women not only should but really deserve a birth process that is theirs. And so autonomy and independence and real informed consent is seriously lacking. And so and then lastly, the politics all have to do with money. Insurance companies and physicians and like the AMA, people are making billions of dollars in this industry. And when you think even just about salaries and schedules, interventions and controlling labor and augmenting labor and even allowing for things like elective C-sections, all of those things generate money and empty beds and hospital beds and don't ever or very seldom are primarily done to benefit patients or to increase good outcomes. And so the politics is really another power dynamic that is saying decisions are being made outside of the realm of patient safety, and that is a problem. And so the film just does a good job. It's a little one-sided. It doesn't talk about, it talks very little about the pop culture and it talks a little bit about like too posh to push and scheduling tummy tucks along with C-section. So there is, to some extent, something that is outside the control of physicians and insurance companies. But all of it is worth looking into, and it's worth watching. It's not very long. It's like an hour and a half. And I think that's it. I'm just looking over this. I think that's everything. So, The Business of Being Born. It's on Netflix. You can watch it for free.